All right, welcome to Monday Night Live. It's like Saturday Night Live, but on Monday. And today we're going to answer all your questions about anything and everything drone related. Actually, do we have a counter this week, or we haven't done that yet?
Comment counter? No.
Yeah, not yet. Okay. So we said we were going to try to do a counter every time I answer a question and do a ticker. We'll do that eventually, but I think last week we answered like 100 questions in an hour, so it goes by pretty quickly. If you have questions, put them down in the comments. Jason is in the back filtering all the data. We have Ethan back there that's switching cameras, and then we have Ben making snarky remarks, and Bo is actually the only one working. So, and what else? I think we have Tom also looking in the chat, probably making some funny remarks as well. What do we have that happened? Nothing. We were here last week. What did we do last week with this week?
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, St. Patty's Day. I think we've been busy with the community. We have Jillian that started. If you haven't met Jillian, she's our new community manager. She has been busy, and so it's exciting. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, we had our Friday.
Sun and Fun.
Yeah, getting ready for Sun and Fun. That's right. We have a cool booth that should be here this week. We bought. If you're going to Sun and Fun to come see us, the tent is going to look a little bit different. We have a magnificent booth right in the middle. It's 22 foot long.
Magnificent.
Magnificent. And yeah, we talked about movies. That's what we did on Friday night during the live event, the happy hour on the community. If you haven't seen the community yet and you are a student, whether paid or free, head over to community.pilotinstitute.com. I think I just checked, we have like 17,000 members already in there, and a lot more adding every day as they find out about it and they go back to their courses. So it's exciting. It's exciting. So I think we should get maybe started with the questions. Oh, I know what happened. Saturday was the first day that the FAA said they will finally enforce remote ID. There was a pause in enforcement until this Saturday. What it means is that if you fly now, the FAA will not accept any excuses anymore for not having remote ID. That's the simplest way of putting it. So make sure you have a module, or make sure you have a standard remote ID drone. Make sure that otherwise you have you fly out of FRIA. And by the way, talking of FRIAs, let's talk about this for a second, because I had a couple students already email me about this. I think because we posted that video about remote ID. Not all FRIAs are free, and I know this sounds a little funny, but a lot of, and I'm going to say all, but maybe that's not correct, but the majority of the FRIAs that are approved for the AMA, which is one of the CBO, community-based organizations, the FRIAs for the AMA are not free. You have to be a member because it's their fixed sites where they're flying, or I shouldn't say fixed site, it's their sites where they're flying, so you have to be a member. So if you find a FRIA on that list and you're like, oh, okay, I can go fly my drone over there and it's free like the community-based organization guidelines, well, it's not with at least the AMA, which is sad. So just be aware of this. What's going on back there?
We just got a package.
Oh, package.
Several packages.
Sweet. We've been testing backpacks. As a matter of fact, I just moved all my stuff into a Pilot Institute backpack. Yeah, bring the second one, the lighter blue color. Well, actually, bring all of them. The one that are on the table. Ben is going to go get them. I think you guys will enjoy those. We're testing backpacks to see if we can offer some backpacks for sale, Pilot Institute backpack. We're trying to do a little bit more merch, and I know a lot of you have been asking merch. It's difficult to do merch at the moment until we maybe move to a new facility, but we at least are starting to get samples, and a lot of them are pretty cool. I think some of them are not going to see the light of day just because they're very similar to each other, but yeah, let's do number one. Shit. Ben, my drink is right here. Ben is being careless. So here's one.
Number two.
Number two. This is the one I'm testing right now, but in a different color.
Number three.
Number three. So here's one of them right here. It's actually pretty cool. This one is just a simple pocket in the front. They're all camera backpacks. So this one has a pocket in the front where you can put stuff. Actually, you know what? That's the one maybe I should have tested. And then this one opens in the back. Oh, it doesn't have a laptop other than this right here. It doesn't have an actual laptop tray or laptop slide pocket. But I do like this pocket in the front, but that always ends up being like a junk collector. And then a big open space in the middle. So that's the gray one. We'll call that one number one. This one I'm testing a version that's a slightly different blue. This is a darker blue I'm testing. This one was a little too light. But I like this one because it's shaped, so it maintains its shape. Again, it's a camera bag. It's got all the dividers in the middle. It's got pockets on the side with the little rain condom right here on top. And then it's got the slider for the laptop. So I have a 15-inch laptop that I use all the time. And I'm going to test it as a daily driver to see how it fits. I like the fact that the pocket is open right here, not in front of the whatever you call these. And then it's got room for a tripod on the side if you want to do that. Or
A thermos.
well, I don't know that the thermos is going to fit very well in here. Or
flask.
maybe no, maybe not a flask. I don't know, golf clubs, baseball bats, whatever you want to do. It's zombie apocalypse proof. This one is our favorite right now, but it's going to be a bit more expensive. It's a little bit bigger, but it does have a full pocket right here in the front to protect stuff. And then a lot of pockets everywhere. And then I don't think this one has necessarily, oh no, it's on the side where you can slide a laptop if you wanted to. But this one is superior quality. It's got pockets right here and then pockets right here at the top. So a ton of little hidden pockets and then a big room right here and then another pocket on the side full of pockets and then the tripod as well on the side. So anyways, those are cool. We'll let you know what we come up with, but these backpacks are pretty cool. I'm a bit of a backpack addict. I have a lot of backpacks. No laptop pocket is no bueno, I agree, Vic. I need that for me. And then it needs to fit a 15-inch laptop. That's one of our requirements. Cost, we don't know at the moment because these are just samplers and it's going to depend on volume and a lot of things. But obviously, just like everything we do, we want to make it affordable. So we also keep in mind that, Okay, well, let's get to the questions because they're already piling up in the comments right here. I haven't said hi to people. So we have, let's see, who do we have in the chat? Stephen Hoover, RAH Production, practicing photography, John Clark, Drone Lake Guy with the cookies, as always, Independent Drone Channel, Curtis Warren, Northern Drone Guy, 4 Props, Vic Moss is in the house, 107 Drones, Bill Burkhart, we have November 9, Papa Victor, I don't think that's how you said, but that's how I'm going to say it because it sounds like a tail number. Creature 57, Justin Field, Sergio De La Garza, Chris, Engineer Drone Services, Maple Creations, a lot of people, SUTV, Travis Cheney, a lot of people that I recognize, Beaver Dam, Aerial Photography, Hippocrates, Garden, Bruce Lutz, Bob Pruitt. It goes on and on and on. A lot of you, Curtis Warren, familiar names. Thanks for being here, everyone. We're going to get started. And let's get going. Which one is free? None of these are going to be free, unfortunately. Okay. First question, John Clark says, for drones that now require a module, how do I verify compliance? It's a good question. The FAA says land ASAP anytime remote ID stops, but gives no tool to monitor such thing. Apps today are unreliable. I agree that the apps are unreliable, but that's really the only way right now. So from our discussions with the FAA, basically if you have the thing turned on, especially a module, the module should tell you if it's not working correctly. If it doesn't have the right light on it, then it's not working. Otherwise, you have to assume that it's working correctly. 107 drones, what level ND filter? And remember, I'm going to go back real quick. Remember that these drones are compliant with the FAA, which means that if it's turned on, then it means it's transmitting because that's what the FAA approved them to be. So once it has compliance, if it's turned on, that's really where it stops for you. It's on and it's broadcasting. You should assume that it is broadcasting. Let's put it this way. 107 drone says, what level filter do you need to capture the solar eclipse? Okay, let's get to the solar eclipse. I'm going to answer all and every question right here with one answer, hopefully. Drones are ill-equipped to do footage of the eclipse. Now, if you're trying to shoot directly at the sun with a drone, with an ND filter, it's not going to look good because no ND filter is going to be strong enough to do that. You need to get a special filter for the sun. It's a solar filter, and then you will be able to remove enough light to be able to see something. But keep in mind, most drones these days, unless you have something with a 7X, and even then it's going to be questionable, most drones are very wide, which means that it's not going to capture, the sun is going to look like 20 pixels by 20 pixels on your image, maybe a little bit bigger than that, but you know what I'm saying. It's going to be a tiny little portion of the image, and being able to see, you know, the eclipse in that is going to be very difficult. So what I recommend instead is, if you're on the ground, use a camera that has a long zoom lens, if that's what you want to get, is the sun, you know, going in, the moon going in front of the sun. Use the drone for something different. Maybe use the drone in a manual mode, looking at landscape on the ground, and do it as a time lapse where you see the passage of the eclipse, where it goes from bright to dark to bright, and as you're moving, maybe. So be creative, not necessarily looking at the sun, but looking at the effect of the sun not being there in the middle of the day, going from bright to dark to bright. I think the whole eclipse is going to be about 5 minutes long, if I remember correctly. So use creativity to do this, is what I'm saying. But it's going to be very difficult to get a good image, and I think you're going to be disappointed if you use the drone to only look at the sun as you take the picture. And if you don't have the right filter, the actual specific solar filter, then you might actually hurt your sensor because you're looking straight at the sun for an extended period of time. So let's see if there are any comments on that. Time lapse of the landscape. Yeah, well, the Vic said that. I'm not surprised. 2 filters set to 180 will work. Yeah, possibly as well. 2 filters on top of each other. But yeah, the drone is on the right tool. I agree. Vic agrees with me, so that's good. Bill Burkhart says, I'm traveling to Alberta in April. Where can I learn about the rules and regulation regarding flying a drone there? 107, and he says, I have my 107. I know Bill has been a long-time follower. Bill, the 107 is not going to do anything in Canada, but they have 2 different licenses in Canada. They have, I think it's called a basic and an advanced, or to that intent. And it's all based on the risk that you're going to be taking. And so the higher the risk, the more likely you'll need the advanced certificate, which is harder to get because you need to do a check ride and you need to do training and all that. The basic certificate is rather easy from what I understand to get. This is actually something that I should do myself. Not that I have any plans to go to Canada, but I do get quite a few questions on that, so I should go through the process myself. But not super difficult to get the basics. So go to Transport Canada. Transport Canada is the equivalent of the FAA here, and they have information about how to fly drones, and they'll tell you everything you need to do. Creature 57, still struggling trying to get my Mavic 2 Pro to a remote ID number. If you can help, I would appreciate it. let us know what issues you have, but it's a software update really at this stage. So are you not able to get the software updated, or let me know a bit more about the issues. If there were to be a ban on DJI, would that be going forward or for all current drones? Would it be more for the government and municipal drones? The majority of the bills we have seen so far for bans have to do with agencies that are using federal dollars. So at this stage, I would not worry about it if you're not flying for if you're not using federal funding to buy your drone. And then as far as if it's all current drones, it all depends on how the ban would be worded. There's been different versions that have flown around, and none of them are very super specific. Do you have any details on the new Spectre drone? It's basically a clone of the Mavic 3. Wondering if it's a scam or legit drone. I have not heard about the Spectre drone. Anything that claims to be a clone of the Mavic 3 is more than likely a scam. And because others have tried for years to compete with that, and they are not able to. So I would say if it's something that I haven't heard from, it's probably fishy. Engineer Drone Services says, Jillian, Greg, will the new point system be retroactive? I've always personalized my comments to members, individualized, blah, blah, blah. So what Engineer Drone Services is asking is something that we've had to deal with in the community. We have a leaderboard in there, and we've changed the way that points are getting assigned. In this case, points have always been assigned to people that make posts and get likes. So this is not changing. So it's not becoming retroactive because it's always been that way. What we did is we removed getting points for people that leave comments because it was getting abused. So you don't no longer get points for leaving comments, but if you get points for posting and getting likes on that post, then you are going to get points. I think I made sense somewhat. Maple's Creation says, I have an Autel Evo 2 Pro 6K V3, also have an iPhone, and I cannot see my remote ID in any app that is supposed to pick up. So you're not doing anything wrong. In this case, the Autel is doing the same thing that DJI is doing. They're using Wi-Fi in order to comply with remote ID, with standard remote ID, meaning that your iPhone cannot pick that signal because Apple doesn't allow app developers to scan for Wi-Fi signal. It's actually a security thing. They don't want people creating an app that scans Wi-Fi networks and then collects data. So that's the reason. If you have access to an Android phone, you would be able to do it. Next, SUTV says, Greg, can I put a light at the bottom of my drone Mavic 3 Classic? Yep, no regulation against having a light at the bottom of your drone. Travis Cheney says, how many drone incidents do you think will be in the news on the first day of the MLB season?
What sport is MLB?
I know what sport is MLB. I'm not that bad. It's hockey. It's not. It's basketball. B for basketball? No, I know it's not. It's baseball. I know the NBA. I've watched the NBA enough that I know the NBA, but thought I'd make fun of you. Okay. How many drones sorry, I need to answer the question. How many drones incidents? Probably a bunch. You know, there's always a few every year. So practicing photography says, how close to an airport will LAANC approve? I saw an ask to fly near my local airport, and it will border on the surface and 100 blocks. You can get approval in zero grid as long as you're not too close to the airport. So if it's a zero grid that's bordering with a 100-foot grid, chances are you'll be okay as long as you have the right, writing when you do your request. Bob Pruitt says, do recent firmware update for the DJI Mavic Air 2, not Zoom, include remote ID? Okay, so confusion here. Mavic Air 2 doesn't have a Zoom version. That's the Mavic 2. The Mavic Air 2 does not have remote ID. The Mavic 2 Zoom and Pro both have remote ID integrated. So the Mavic Air 2 No remote ID, you need a module. Question about air control. I'm flying in class Charlie, height restriction at 100 feet. When I apply for authorization, it comes back with you are online. Have I been granted authorization? Class C, height restriction 100. You should be getting a text message if you get approval. I don't think the you are online means anything other than you have an internet connection. So you still need to submit it. When it comes back, you are online. Yeah, you should be getting a text message that or email verification that says that you got approval. So I'm not sure which. Air control. Yeah. Yeah, you should be getting notification for sure. Make sure that your phone number is correct in the app. Vic says the Mavic Air 2 does have DOC. Really? What crap?
Just at the end of last month.
Yeah? Well, I'll take that back. I didn't know that. I guess it just happened. I'm clicking on the link that Vic mentioned. I know the Air 2S has approval, but I didn't realize the Air 2. Oh yeah, look at that. Well, okay. Take that back. The Air 2 does have approval. Thanks, Vic. Appreciate that. Squirrel doesn't need to be remote ID. Nope, not right now. At least the flying squirrels might have to be. We're gonna get hamster jokes pretty soon. Watch out. Beaver Dam Aerial Photography says, thank you for working with me this past weekend to get the wiki page updated, spelling out loud in Wisconsin. I'm really happy with the updates we made to make information easier to find. I'm glad we could help. Sergio says, what computer specs should I have to do video editing, also for sending video footage to clients? So the computer specs for sending videos to a client really don't matter all that much because that's going to be uploaded online. You just need a fast internet connection. Now, as far as computer specs, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on what software you're going to be using, what size footage you're going to be recording, if it's recording at 4K, at 1080, if it's recorded as RAW, what kind of editing you're going to be doing. There's a lot of things that go into this. With that being said, I always recommend people get an Apple computer because they're all the newer Apple computers you can buy with the M chip, M1, M2, or M3 are going to be really solid for editing most of what the general population edits. So you don't have to worry about too much about the specs. Now, if you do more advanced stuff like we do here in the studio where we do pretty heavy editing, you want a machine that's going to be spec'd out, but we still use M1 and M2 Max chips here on the Apple, the Mac Studio. So yeah, and it works really well. Any word if the RC2 will be backward compatible with OcuSync 3 aircraft? We don't know. I don't know at this stage. Next question, but the AMA doesn't own the airspace, does it? Correct, John, the AMA doesn't own the airspace. With that being said, the rules are if to qualify for the FRIA, you need to take off and land for within the borders of the FRIA. So you would have to be inside of their FRIA to get the benefit of flying without remote ID. I don't recommend going to mess with people that are at those fields, just let them do their thing. I know they're not always super friendly with multi-rotors, and that's a generalization. It's probably not true everywhere, but that's the feedback we've been getting so far. Wolfpack says, question for not Greg, are points redeemable for crumble cookies or dark chocolate? Ben? Ben is slowly moving to answer.
Unfortunately, I've been told that employees are ineligible to receive points whatsoever. But I do have to mention that Greg, to get any type of points, does have to complete his homework on the videos that we discussed watching over the weekend.
The videos or the movies?
The movies.
The movies, yeah. Writing me out. I will watch them this week. Intel Maxwell Multi-Rotors says the effort to ban DJI drones in the U.S. has extended to Connecticut. With state legislation aiming to prevent municipalities from using these drones, What's your take on this? I think it's an overreach. We know where it's coming from. We know the drone manufacturers and the associations that claim to represent pilots are pushing for. And if you know who they are, then don't support them. That's all I can say. And yeah, it's an overreach, and I hate it. Jimothy says, curious about flying under recreational rules. How would a confrontation by a law enforcement FAA go? Well, don't talk about confrontation. Talk about a discussion with law enforcement and the FAA. If they ask you what CBO you're following, can't you just lie and say any CBO and not know the rules? Well, not a good idea. First off, personally, if the FAA comes in and says, what CBO are you following? And you said, and you're not following any, just say, I'm not following any. Because then the FAA says, well, you should, and here's a list of CBOs. And then that's probably the end of the discussion. As far as law enforcement, I doubt any law enforcement out there is going to be asking that question, but that's just me. It's simple. Just go and pick one, print the guidelines, and then just follow them. They're really not that complicated. A lot of the rules in there are common sense rules: not flying over people, not flying when the visibility is such and such, flying at night using a light. Just, again, basic rules. That's what I would do, personally. Gordon says, please elaborate on CBOs. Where are they located? How do I interact with them? And what is the purpose? That's a good question. So CBO is a community-based organization. They're nationwide entities that support aero modeling or support recreational flying. Let's put it this way. There's 4 of them at the moment. You have FPV Freedom Coalition, for those that fly FPV mainly, but also those that fly multi-rotors in general. There is the Flight Tests Community Association, FTCA, that is mostly for fixed-wing, foamies, smaller aircraft that are radio-controlled. There's STEM-C+, which is based mostly around STEM programs, so science and technical programs for schools. And then there's the AMA, which is the Aeronautical Academy of Model Aeronautics. You knew I was going to mess on that, and you looked it up beforehand.
No, I didn't.
I never remember what it stands for, but anyway. And they are mostly for also fixed wing. They've been around for quite a while. So pick one of those 4, go to their website, and they have guidelines that have been approved by the FAA. And there's 4, by the way, because the FAA has approved them, has approved all 4 of them to be officially recognized by the FAA. And they have guidelines on their website that you can download for free and print them and then follow the guidelines. It's additional rules that are not in the standard set of recreational rules that the FAA put out in 49 USC 44809. That's where the regulation lives for recreational flying. So that's really what it is. That's what a CBO is. They're not really located anywhere per se for your purposes. You don't really need to have one near you. They have, a lot of them have fields, like the AMA has fields everywhere in the country that you could join if you wanted to fly exactly in that location. But most of the people that watch our show are not fly multi-rotors, and they fly anywhere, not just at a specific field. So I hope this helps. Chris says, have you checked out Peak Design backpacks? We've looked at so many designs. I don't know. I haven't been 100% involved with this. We have somebody on staff that worked on that. So I don't know all the brands that we looked at. Expensive, yeah. Yeah, we're trying to find the balance between quality and price, because we don't want to sell a backpack for $200. Not Linus. I love Linus. People say I look like him too, which is funny. Question on the Phantom 4 Pro V2 latest update. Does the update change any third-party application ability? The word on the street, that's the one drone that we don't really have in the office. And so we haven't been able to test it, but the word on the street is that it does. So something to check. Unfortunately, like I said, one of the only drones that we don't have in the office anymore. I would like to view the remote ID of my drone on the app and can be used to view remote ID. So the app, there is two apps, and Ethan, you're gonna have to help me. You just did the video on that. What's the first app?
Air Sentinel.
Air Sentinel, which I think also works on both platforms, and then the other one is, what's the other one?
Drone Scanner.
Drone Scanner we've used quite a bit. Air Sentinel we've used on Android when it was out initially. Works really well. Both of them work pretty well. So those are the two that I would recommend. UR Drone 4 says, are there continuing education units, CEUs, that you have to get to keep your Part 107? No. The Part 107 doesn't work with continuing education credits. It works by completing a course on the FAA website. And so you'll go on FAAsafety.gov, you'll go and complete ALC 677, and that's going to get you your currency every 24 calendar months. Restreed Photos says CSU Monterey Bay has 1 week drone camp in person and online. Has PI considered something like this? So, yes, ish. It's people have been asking us to do in-person Part 107 training, and I refuse to do it, and I'll tell you why. A 7-day, it would take probably 7 days to do it correctly, to do it the right way, the way that we do it in the course, which is in-depth and giving you enough time to digest all the information. And even 7 days is crushing it. It's like drinking from a water hose, and I don't want to do that. I want to give you guys the time that you need. Here's the problem. Every person is different, and every person has a learning mode that they engage and that they get into. If you're not in learning mode, then you cannot absorb the information. And for some people, one day they wake up and they're just not in a learning mode because they have something on their mind. They're busy with work, they have something else going on, and they're just tired. And after so many hours of learning from someone, talking to them in person, I'm sure you can go back to when you were in school. You go class after class after class. And after a while, you're just not in learning mode. And I can tell, I've taught in a classroom long enough. I've taught as a professor at universities for probably combined a little over 12 years. And actually even more than that. But anyways, I could see my students completely zoning out. After, we had 50-minute segments, an hour and 15 minutes. And after 45, sometimes 30 minutes, the students are done. They're no longer in learning mode. And so if you're stuck for 7 days and you have to be in learning mode for 7 days, I can tell you it doesn't happen. So your retention is crap, which means that you're going to fail the exam and you're not going to learn anything. So it's going to be very little value, and I don't want to do that. So long story short, have we thought about doing camps where you can learn stuff? Yes, possibly. But it's got to be the right format. And we're still trying to figure that out so that it's conducive to learning and so that you get out of it with having learned something. The online method is so much better. When you're in learning mode, you can go online and learn. If you want to do this 1 hour a day because that's all the attention span that you have, which is nothing wrong with that, I block myself for 1 hour. As these guys, I put my headphones on, I have my red light on, and I just go and do this for 1 hour. I cannot be engaged for 7 hours or 8 hours a day fully. So the online format works a lot better. Now, as far as learning in person, yes, we are working on something, but there'll be more information in the future. Next. Beaver Dam aerial photography says, I use the UAV forecast app for planning weather conditions. There's a category in there labeled KP. It does say Geomagnetic Storm Index. It is red for this Thursday at 4.33. Can you explain the concern? KP is, like you said, it's the Geomagnetic Storm Index. What it is the sun every once in a while flares up, and as it does, it sends a magnetic storm, which can mess up with your drone, the connection between your drone and the controller. So if the KP index is low, it could mean that you'll get bad signal and possibly lose connection with your controller. Now, with that being said, I found that the UAV Forecast app is not always correct about this. I'm not 100% sure how it's calculated with that specific app, but it's something that's fairly easy to test. When you get to your site, turn on the drone, take off, see what the connection looks like, and keep an eye on it. But I would not use that to ground my mission, quite frankly, personally. Next. I know you fly over the clouds. I don't. But I have a farm. Wait. Hold on. Let me read this whole thing. I know you fly over the clouds, but I have a farm in the middle of nowhere and I'm wanting to do a time lapse of the fog early morning, and I know there's nobody around. Can I do that?
I think I know.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to.
I know you cannot fly over the clouds. Yeah, I think that's what he meant. I mean, as the pilot, you do risk management, so it's your call. Obviously, it is against the FAA regulation, but yeah, I never like to tell people to break the rules. So sometimes you think that there may not be anybody around, and that may as well be the case. I know of plenty of locations here in Prescott where I could go fly where I know there's not going to be either another person or another aircraft flying at 50 feet if that's where I was going to be. So it's a judgment call, but always use common sense when you're going to be flying. Intel Maxwell Multirotor says the remote ID rule expired on March 16. No. However, research indicates that over 70% of major drone manufacturers aren't prepared for remote ID yet. So is it possible that they could extend it further? They will not extend it further. They've already extended it tremendously. Keep in mind, this rule, this requirement for manufacturers to have remote ID has been on since 2022, March of 2022. September of 2022. And the FAA delayed it to December of 2022. So there's been plenty of time for them to comply. So no, I do not see the FAA extending at all at this stage. Can you sell your services for inside flight footage, such as for an expo without Part 107? Yes, you can, because you're flying indoors. With that being said, your insurance company might require that you have Part 107. I'm doubting that anybody will let you fly inside of an expo without proof of insurance, and I'm doubting that anybody is going to give you drone insurance without a Part 107, even if you fly indoors. So keep that in mind. Sean says, is it actually possible to legally fly a home-built FPV drone for Part 107 work, considering commercial work requires standard remote ID as opposed to a module? If it was built after December of 2022, then technically, yes, you would need to have standard remote ID. I think I've talked about this before. The technology is just not there. It's just not available to create a standard remote ID drone on a home built. And so I will argue with the FAA that if I put a module on top of it, it's as compliant as it's going to be. So personally, that would be my approach. I would put a module on top of it and call it a day. And I don't know that anyone at the FAA would be anal enough to argue with that and get you in trouble. Personally, that's my take. Flight Media says, will the Pro Plus battery make the Mini 4 Pro remote ID ready? I think that's the big battery, and the answer is yes. It will only broadcast with the heavy battery, the bigger battery that makes it more than 249 grams. Same for the DJI Mini 3. Well, same for all of them, quite frankly. Yeah, sorry, brain fart. Mr. Plain Talk says, I have a currently registered drone, Mini 2, since Part 89 requires registered drones to be remote ID. Can I just delete it on the drone zone to solve that? Yes. If you registered the Mini 2 when you were not supposed to, you technically need to comply with remote ID. It's easy to delete it from from the list, the inventory it's called on the drone zone, and then don't forget to remove the sticker on it, and then it's no longer registered, which means that if you fly it for recreational purposes, then you don't need remote ID. Antonio Alvarez says, greetings, Puerto Rico. Sweet. I have a DJI Mini 2 and I use it recreationally. Do I need to install remote ID? You do not, unless you registered it, which is what I just said, but no, you don't. Elevated Horizon Drone Services says, the Inspire 1 still a viable cinematic drone, or is it better to go to the Inspire 2? No, the Inspire 1 I don't think as a cinematic drone is viable anymore. You'll get better quality off of pretty much any recent drone, even a Mavic. A Mavic 3 definitely beats it. Probably an Air 3 I think beats the quality from an X3 or X3S. I think it was the payload on the I would say 100%. Inspire 2, again, it depends on what you want to do. The Inspire 2 is great, but it's also really aging. The connection is not OcuSync. It's what they had before OcuSync, Lightbridge. And so the connection is not great, even with the patch antennas. We have an Inspire 2 here. I love the ability of changing the lenses on the platform, but as far as image quality, don't get me wrong, it's still a great platform. I don't think a Mavic 3 beats it as far as quality, because there's still really, you can do ProRes, you can do a whole lot of different things with that drone that I still think it's got an edge, but and the ability to change lenses I think is big. So yeah, I would, if you can find an Inspire 2 for cheap, I would probably jump on it. Depends on the work that you want to do also. Can I attach a string of lights to my drone? As long as they don't hurt anybody on the ground if they fall, then as long as it's securely attached to the drone, yeah, I don't see why not. Tyler says, how soon do you think until the new DJI goggles are putting a bright circle around your drone and surrounding aircraft in augmented reality? Interesting question. There's been rumors about the Avada 2, the new goggles, having AR. And we've seen some sort of AR in the original DJI FPV that had the home point kind of, superimposed on top of the footage so you could see where it was. That was augmented reality if you think about it. So it'd be cool. It'd be cool to, the DJI goggles, are not designed to see. How am I going to say that? The DJI goggles are FPV goggles, which means that you're seeing the footage from the drone. So you wouldn't need to see where the drone is because you're on board of the drone. Now, as far as a set of goggles that you could put on and it would bring additional information, like we did with the Apple goggles. We had the Apple goggles and we flew the DJI, which one was it? The small one, the tiny one. We flew that in the office. So I had the whole display right here on the screen, and I was able to see the feed from the drone. At the same time, I was able to see the drone. There's still a lot of limitations on that. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't think that's what DJI is going to do with their goggles, but we'll see. With all the changes at AUVSI, do you think the top pilot certification will lose its value in the industry? Quite frankly, Jesse, I don't think the top certification ever had any value in the industry. If you talk to most everyone in the industry today, they'll tell you the same thing. Personally, I think it was a money grab to create some sort of certification that was never recognized by really any customers or anybody in the industry. So, yeah, that's my take on it. Intel Maxwell Multirotor says that clone DJI Air 3 mind-boggling because it was from a different company. Is it possible that DJI is cloning drones under a different name to evade a ban in the US? I haven't seen the clone of the Air 3, but the only way that DJI could evade a ban would be to manufacture a drone in the US using US parts. So I don't think that's happening anytime soon, unfortunately. My school's broadcasting club wants a drone. I'm their only Part 107 pilot flying for monthly episodes, social media. Do we need Part 107 for non-commercial use? For non-commercial use. So if it's a school broadcasting club and you're doing anything for them, it's not recreational. So in this case, that would be a Part 107 operation. Yeah, that would be a Part 107. Even if it's, you call it non-commercial, I call it non-recreational. So that's really the key. Is it recreational? Ben, what's the rest of it? Is it recreational?
Or Part 107?
Yeah, that's the game that we did. Is it recreational or is it not recreational? That's really the question. If it's not recreational, then it's Part 107. That's really the bottom line.
If it's not a commercial business, even if they're not making money and it's volunteer.
Correct. So commercial, if it's commercial, it's Part 107. But if it's not commercial, it doesn't mean that it's not Part 107. I'm going to say that again. If it's not commercial, it doesn't mean that it's not Part 107. It doesn't automatically put you in the recreational side. Next question. Questions keep coming. You guys are full of questions. Ben is full of it, but you're full of questions.
We're up to 36 questions answered.
Oh, you're doing a tally over there?
Well, math is hard, but yeah, approximately.
36 questions in 45 minutes. That's not bad, especially the way that I ramble. Do you have any knowledge about getting airspace approval for drones over 55 pounds? Once you get a drone set up, we will be flying under Part 137. Yes, 49 USC 44807 is what you need to look into. 49 USC 44807, you'll get approval to fly drones over 55 pounds. And there's a way to get a waiver to fly with I'm not going to say it gets complicated. So, but Part 137 is going to be required for crop dusting because of carrying chemicals. Peter says, I have an older DJI drone. It is registered, but I no longer use it because of these new regulations. No longer fun for me. But as it is registered, do I still need to have remote ID for it? If it's registered, then yes, it needs remote ID. Taiji says, I hope that's how you say it, what's the best drone for mapping and modeling using apps that will help complete mission and provide a final product for the customer? Two things. So the best drone at the moment is going to be either a Mavic 3 Enterprise or using an Autel Evo 2 of sorts, V3, and then or using a DJI Phantom 4 Pro V2 if you can find one used. These are kind of like the top contenders. And those will allow you to use apps to do the pattern to collect data. Now, as far as the app to process the data, there's a lot of different apps that you can use to process the data. Cascade Drone Services says, is it normal to be nervous when flying a drone 100 feet and higher AGL even after 2 years of flying? I don't know if I don't trust the tech. I'm afraid to lose the drone or my fear of heights. I would say after 2 years, you probably should be familiar. You probably should be comfortable flying at 100 feet. I don't know if you had bad experiences before where possibly the drone falls out of the sky, which could lead to having a distrust in the tech. But no, you should feel pretty comfortable if you have a drone from one of the top brands. There is no reason that at 100 feet, just don't fly over people and moving vehicles. Aztec says, best way to get a pilot license. I'm assuming you're talking about full manned aircraft pilot's license. Study the ground school with us. We have a private pilot ground school, and then find a flight school near you. As a matter of fact, we have a free course called Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Pilot, and we give you a lot of tips on how to get your license. It's free. Go to the website, go to the airplane side of things on the website, and take a look at that. If I register a sub 250 gram drone under Part 107 and decide to fly recreationally, can I fly without remote ID? Nope. If it's registered, Well, yes, if it's registered under Part 107, it means that it needs remote ID, even if flown under 44809, because the drone itself is registered. Intel Maxwell multi-rotors, are you planning to purchase the Avada 2 FPV when it's supposedly released this April? If so, I'm eagerly anticipating your review. Yes, we do plan on buying the Avada 2 when it comes out, for sure. Confused about registration and recreational flying. My Mini 4 Pro is registered. I'm flying recreationally only, so I can't use any prop guards at all. If so, remote ID has to be turned on, but I've only got the small battery. Yes, that's, so yeah, in your case, that sucks. You're in the position where you want to put prop guards on the aircraft. You have the small battery. It takes it over 249 grams, which means that it needs remote ID. It needs to be registered, but it doesn't broadcast remote ID because of the changes that DJI made. So in your case, you would need a remote ID module on top of it to fly it recreationally with the higher payload. It sucks. That's one of the situations where this is just cumbersome. Maple's Creation says, okay, so I need an Android phone to see remote ID. So now my question is, if my drone is registered on the drone zone and I have the declaration of compliance and my drone is updated, then it should be legal to fly. Correct. That's correct. Speedbeast says, do I need a waiver to film my car with a DJI Mini 3 Pro on the country back road and sparsely populated area and review cars and put drone footage on YouTube now that I have my Part 107? You can do that, just don't fly over the car, technically, over, don't fly over the moving vehicle that has people in it. But otherwise, you could be filming yourself. Don't drive and fly at the same time, that's reckless. Have somebody else either fly the drone and you drive, or somebody else drive your car and you fly, and then you follow it. We've done that before in a sparsely populated area. Jim T says, do you know of a popular drone insurance provider for a recreational drone pilot flying in Canada? Ooh, I do not know insurance in Canada. Sorry. Chad says, what is the latest on the DJI being outlawed? That bill is still sitting and it's at 1% chance of passing, so I'm not going to worry about it at this stage. Anoop says, I recently bought a drone bundle course from you guys, but I heard the FAA is planning to ban DJI drone. Nope. Do I still think it's worth it? The FAA is not banning drones. Some politicians are trying to, but like I just said, that bill is sitting at 1% at this stage, so I would not worry about it. Following up another question, I might end up teaching a high school drone class. Other teachers are lining up to sub for me in the future and they don't have a Part 107. Can they fly and teach? Nope, they cannot fly. If it's high school, nope, they cannot fly with kids. That's a Part 107 activity, so unless they're flying indoors. But if they're going to sub for you, they need to know the content anyway. They need to know drone stuff. So Part 107 should be the bare minimum that they need to have, okay? I was planning on flying by my house. It's in uncontrolled airspace. I looked in air aware, no adverse. Wait. I looked on air aware when a C-130 flew low. Is there somewhere to look to see if they're flying in my area? No, not C-130 is a military aircraft, large military aircraft. But my guess is going to be, unless you're close to an airport, C-130s are not flying below 400 feet, guaranteed. So it should not be an issue. If they are, they have other issues. But no, they're not. They don't fly that low. That's a huge, huge aircraft. And that aircraft could feel like it's flying very low because it's so big, but it's definitely not flying. I would even say it's not flying below 1,000 feet above the ground, probably not even 2,000 feet above the ground, unless, again, you're close to an airport, in which case you would see that information in AirAware.
Vic Moss's comment?
No, what did Vic say? Oh yeah, he's right. Yeah, new FAA Reauthorization Act would add high school and elementary school to the educational exemption. So in the future, you might be able to do it if that doesn't get changed before the new Reauthorization Act is passed. I agree with that. If I unregister my drone because I want to just be recreational until I get a module or the bigger battery, I won't have any problem re-registering. No, because as a recreational pilot, you register yourself, really. You get that number, and then you just add things to your inventory. You add drones to your inventory so that they become covered by that one registration number. So when you delete them from the inventory, it's super easy to add them back again. Will a Mini 3 Pro standard battery in a Mini 4 Pro activate the remote ID since the Mini 3 Pro battery is slightly heavier? It doesn't change the behavior based on what? Mini 3 Pro standard battery, no. Well, crap. Jason, I don't know if Jason remembers. I don't know if Jason remembers. It's one of those that I think we heard people say, but I don't remember what the answer is. Too many freaking options with this. Let's see what Jason says. He has a better memory than I have for these things. Where do I find my remote ID serial number to update my drone zone listing for my Air 2? It's in the About section. If you actually updated it to the latest, then it will be either a serial, a remote ID serial number, or a controller serial number. That's where you would look. What did he say, Ben?
He said that he's pretty sure that it did activate.
It did activate. So yeah, so Jason is saying that if you put the Mini 3 Pro standard battery, it does activate remote ID because it makes the drone over 250 grams. Bob says, where do I, no, he just answered that. Brian, we only have a few more questions here, getting close to the end. Brian says, can I see what drones are flown in my area? I just want to see how frequently people are flying near where I fly. Remote ID data is live, aka it doesn't get recorded unless somebody has a box there to record the data, but otherwise it just gets live. The FAA doesn't record it. It doesn't get recorded unless somebody is there, and then you would have to find that source if they have it. But otherwise, unless you have your phone on all the time to see who's flying and detect drones, that's the only way you'd be able to do it. Chris Ritchie says, is there any federal regulation requirement on fixing drones? Not per se, but your drone needs to be in correct working order before you take off. So, but no. Otherwise, no. Huh? Well, categorized drone, yeah. Category 4 is going to have some requirement, but I don't think that's what he meant. Cloud Camper, can I fly over people and cars that are in the event where everyone involved knows the drone? Not if you, recreational, no. If you're recreational, you cannot never fly over people or moving vehicle regardless of the situation. If you're Part 107, if you have a categorized drone, then you could, but not a whole lot of them are available, or you need a waiver, specific waiver like what Vic has in some cases. The answer is mostly going to be no. Air data airspace map now shows red lines outlining main power lines in Florida. My question is, am I allowed to pass over when I'm flying, or am I not allowed to cross over at all? You'd have to read the critical infrastructure rules in Florida, but my guess is they're in there because there's a critical infrastructure rules that prevents you from flying over, which would mean in that specific area. There's more of that coming soon from the FAA. I think it's called Section 2204 or something like that. It's got a 2 and a 4 somewhere in there. That would standardize, the FAA would standardize what a critical infrastructure is in different states and allow states to prohibit flying near those. And not always a popular opinion, but I think to me it's fine. If we can standardize it and say this is a critical infrastructure, and we will never all agree, but if there is a standard and we don't let the states do just whatever they want with saying Bob's house over there is a critical infrastructure. You know, power lines and some sort of power lines, some sort of facilities, you know, that deal with the electrical grid and other things should be covered under this, and we should not be allowed to fly over those. I'm okay with that, but 2209, thank you, Vic. NPRM is supposed to be out this year. Yep, we talked about this in our meeting the other day. So 2209, not 2204. So hopefully we get some answers from the FAA. This was mandated by Congress in the 2016 Reauthorization Act by the FAA, and they never put it in place. So, okay. Whew, we did it. Ben, what was the last count?
56.
56!
Woo.
56 in 60 minutes. That's almost, it's pretty good. And especially I babbled a lot early on.
You didn't answer a single question about hamsters.
Nope, no hamster questions either. I'm surprised. So, but yeah, that's it, folks. We're going to end it right here. Thank you for watching. We have a Friday morning news update coming up. Do we have a video coming out this week?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of either.
Remote ID one on.
Yeah, the remote ID was Saturday. Yeah, we've got other projects. Huh?
Community happy hour on Friday.
Yep, community happy hour on Friday at 4 p.m. And
Same
then,
time as this.
yeah, same time as this. And that's it, I think. Can I carry a hamster on a drone? Yeah. Showed up. All right, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.